Hello everyone, today I am going to show you how we can create a production style Nginx reverse proxy setup. So for this I am going to explain first the architecture what will happen here. So if I have an application and I have hosted that application in my as a website. So first of all there will be a user who will come to his browser and type my URL. Let's suppose my URL is resource.info, and basically what it will happen when this resource.info, so one of my service will be exposed. So suppose I am creating a nginx and this act as a reverse proxy. Basically it is not directly like there will be my front end application, back end application, so we can't allow users to directly access this front end and back end application. So what I have done, I have created a nginx reverse proxy setup which will expose my front end and back end. Basically from Nginx, we have the user will try to access this front end and back end. Let's say my front end is running on port 3000 and back end is running on port 8000. Let's suppose. So I can't allow that any user which is coming to my resource.info and then directly going to port 8000. I can't allow this. So I have set up this Nginx reverse proxy setup. Reverse proxy setup. So to create this, let's go to our Visual Studio Code and see how we can create this reverse proxy setup and this architecture. So first of all, I have came to and okay. So now in my Visual Studio Code, I am going to create a folder one front end, front end, back end, back end, and one Nginx, Nginx. So this all the folders should be inside any root folder. So my root folder here I have given as YouTube prod. So now let's go and create a folder inside front end. Like I will create a folder named pages which will contain all the my HTML, CSS and JavaScript file. So I have created. And also I will create one folder, not Docker file. So let me create my Docker file also. Can you yeah. So now I have my pages and Docker file inside this. Docker file I will create after creating the pages inside this front end. So let's go and create what the skeleton of my pages should be. So inside this page I will be having again one inside this page folder I will be having a file, HTML file. So let's make this name as index.html, which will contain all the skeleton of my website, how it is going to look, what will be the content of my application. So for this I am using index.html, and for beautifying it I am going to create a css file which will be referencing to this index.html. Style.css, and again I will create one script.js which will add the functionality, like what will happen if you click this button. So that functional, for that I'm using a Java. So let's go and create an index.html file. So for creating this index.html file I have already created the code. So I will just copy paste it here. I will also keep the code into my GitHub. So I will attach my GitHub link in my description, so you can go and check it out. So I pasted all the code. So basically, this code, what it is doing, it is creating a title welcome app, enter, and it is taking one like enter your name. It is giving a header and one label. It is giving in that, and I am taking one input, like input in this in text. You have to enter your name and one button. Okay, Okay, you have to click a go. And what this button will do, it is just a simple, it will call a function inside my script.js file, and uh, it will again call the backend API, and it will just show that welcome your name, welcome Rishabhraj. So let's go and create my CSS file also. So I will just copy paste again the CSS file from this. So again I have created this and save it. We have to also save this index.html and script.js file also. I will go and copy and paste it. Everything is done here, and now I will create a Docker file out of this. So for creating a Docker file, what we have to do? What I am doing, I am running this from a first. This front end will be running by a Python web server only. So I will use the base image of Python from the Docker Hub. So from Python 3.13, 3.13 Selim, and what we are doing in from work directory, everything will be there. And in my, I will copy all the pages, copy all the pages to my app, and here I will expose 3000. So my front end will be running on 3000 port, and I will give a command to start this emd, and it is created. So my front end is ready, and from Docker file, from this Docker file, we can start my front end. Now I will go and create a backend. In backend, I will have a app.py file. App.py file. Basically, I am creating a Flask API from in my backend. So let's go and code it. My backend, what will happen? Back in my backend, what I'm doing, I will be using from Fast API, Fast API, import Fast API, and from Pydantic, Pydantic, Pydantic is a library used for like validating your text or something which you have written. So yeah. Now I created this object I created of my Fast API, and this I have created for validating this class which is using a Pydantic. So my name should always be a string. So one name input. Let me name it as name input base model, and what I will do, I will create a post method. After post grid is welcome, and this is my function. Even the button will be clicked, I will be having this. And again I will create one Docker file inside it which will package this application Docker file. And in Docker file, what I am going to do, in Docker file again I am going to use it from Python 3.13 link working directory where copy everything. So I will also create one requirement.file which will having all the libraries, yeah, I have used, like I have used a fast API and Pydantic. So I will write inside this requirements file requirements.txt, and inside requirement.txt I have to give a fast API, and I will give the version of this fast API 0.115150, and for running this I'll be using Ruby core, and also I have used a Pydantic. So I will be going here and then I will go west. So yes, So these are my, so I'll be using Redis letter. So this and then requests. So request. So these are the library which I have given in my requirement.txt, and I will be copying this in my Docker file. So what the Docker file will be doing, it will be copying requirement.txt file, requirement.txt to my, not the, like, not inside the app folder. It will go inside the container, but it will be copied inside the root folder of my container. And then I will do that. I will go inside that container. It will install the requirement.txt. I will copy that app.py, the folder, expose this, and I will give a command to run this. So host name and my, this will be running on port like 8000. So yes, my front end is also ready. Now I have to set up an Nginx server to like serve this front end and back end as I have shown in this video. Okay, my Nginx, this Nginx is serving on, like, this Nginx is serving both front end and back end. So now I have to set up a Nginx server. So in Nginx server we have a configuration file. So you have to create one configuration file where we have to give all the routes, like uh, what the, all the, from which route my application will be accessed. So we have to create one file name default.conf, and inside this we have to give a, like, we have to route everything. So we have to give at a server, and then my server will be listening on port, like Nginx default port is 80. So my server will be listening on port 80. Listen 80, and this is giving my, this all everything is, remove this server name and special host slash, okay. So now my front end will be running on port, like whenever the port 80 will be coming, and here it is going, so it will be accessing my front end port and slash API. So slash API is the backend port where I have given this slash API. So here it will be going to this default form and accessing this API. Okay, so now let's go and create a Docker file for this Nginx also. So I will go and create a Docker file, and in this Docker file, I will take a base image of that uh, Nginx from Nginx, and file Nginx, and then we have to give the version name. So Nginx 1.27 I'm taking for now. 1.27 Alpine. Alpine is the, like, uh, smallest size of the image. So whenever my image will be built, the size of this image will be small. And then what I have to do, I have to remove my default. Whenever the Nginx is going to install, it will, like, by default create a default.conf file which will having its own HTML file. It will run it. So we don't want its default HTML files should be running. So I have to remove this, and then in that folder I have to keep this default and .conf file which I have created for, like, routing. Like, my first the user will be coming to any browser, and the my application will be running on port 80, and from there I have this front end folder and this front end application running and this back end application running. So for that I have to remove that default conf file, which Nginx will do. So for that we have to do run rf and this command, just like we have to remove this remove slash etc. So because the default.conf file uh, is have is located in this folder. So first I am removing it and then I am copying this, copy my default conf, copying default conf and I'm exposing it. So yeah, now I have done. Now what I will do, I will create a Docker Compose file out of everything, like all the folder. Like this is a separate Docker file I have created for frontend, backend, and Nginx. But now I am going to create a final Docker Compose file which will start all these services, like Nginx service will be started at when frontend will be started and backend from this Docker Compose file. So for creating this Docker Compose, you have to give the name as Docker compose.yml, Docker Compose YML, and in Docker Compose YML, I will create one network, Docker network. So what does Docker network do? Like let me show you in my diagram. So Docker network will create one separate network where say mm, this is a network, one network, like I will give it a name as Docker network or something, Docker network, and this is my front end, this is my back end, and this is my engineer. Let's go. This is my front end, back end, and engineer. So this all will be using this network. So they, like all services will be using this network to communicate between each other. Like the front end can communicate with backend and backend communicate with Nginx. So first of all, like user is coming to Nginx and from Nginx it is going to front end and it is going to backend. So I will be having a separate network for this. So I am going to create a network like this. If there is a separate different network, it then it will not be decided to communicate because for the security reason. So let's go and create a Docker network first. So for creating network, we have to give a keyword here, networks, app networks, and driver. It is a kind of like there are four or five type of network, like bridge network and opaque network, none network. So we will talk that type of network differently. So, but for now, that what network is doing, it is giving all the services to communicate through this a common network only. So for that, I have to create a services, and first services I will going to create Nginx. So Nginx will build this, and what it's going to do, it is going to this dot my file and going to this nginx folder, and it will find the docker file and it will build a image out of this, and nginx will be running on port 80, and it will depends on service frontend and backend. So I have to again create a service named as frontend frontend will be going to this and this network, and this backend also I have given. So backend will also be using the same network. Now my Docker Compose is running. So let's go and build this Docker Compose build. I have already written this command, Docker Compose build. Okay. So I think I have to save this. Control save, and let me see if my Docker file is there or Docker Compose is there or not. Yes, now it is there, and let me Docker Compose build. Now it has started building. The Docker file failed to search, the Docker file cannot be empty. I think I forgot to save this. So let me save the front end of the file also. Everything you have to save, then only it will be running. So I will go again and build it. Some error. Not resolved metadata from Python. Okay. Here I think I have given a, because the Python version I have given wrong Python version, so it should be 3.1. So save again and again run it. So complete build. So now it is building. What it has given. Not completed successfully. Install requirements.txt. So pip install. Let me see what is the issue here. Target backend failed to start process in.sh. So now let's again build it. There was some issue with requirement.txt file. Uh, the requirements.txt. Okay, so the issue was with a Python version. So I have changed the Python version to Python 3.12, and I will try to save it and again build the Docker Compose file. Yeah, so now my all the Docker Compose file is built. So let's go and see Docker images. Spelling mistake. So my Docker images is running. So I have to just give a command Docker compose up hyphen d. I am running in my backend mode. So, so it has my all the container started and I have to see Docker compose and Docker ps. So I will Docker ps and yes, see my port 80 is serving. So I will go and access that port localhost localhost localhost, simply the localhost. And yes, now this is see this is my what happened. My this is my Nginx port like localhost where I have given routed it. So if you can see default.connect. So in this is listening to port 80. So the default port is localhost 80, and this is my front end which is running on port 3000, but we can't access it directly. Like the my front end is running on port 3000. So if you try to access this localhost 3000, so we can't access. So it will be not accessing directly. So we have to go through this Nginx only. So localhost. So okay, let me go and see my container to go to localhost. Yeah. Now I will give you my name, enter my name. So this is my front end, and when I click go, it will call my backend. So my backend will be called like this port port 8000. So I think I have given a wrong port there. I can port 8000. Okay, so I have to give again here more 0 because for host have to give. So these are the small mistake we have to let's see, and then again I have to go and build this Docker Compose build, and then again I have to run as recreated starting, and again I will go try to again run localhost. So again it has started. I'll give the name recover, and it should give my name here. Okay, so now that I have rectified my error, like the port number was missing, so I have rectified, and let's reload this page, and I will give my name reload. So this is my front end, and when I click this go button, it will be calling my this backend services, and it will display the name here. Like if I give any different name, like so, and click so welcome it. So yes, this was like a production style like Nginx server which I built. Like my user is coming to a browser, so this is my browser, and my port is running on like Nginx proxy, and then front end is running on port 3000, but it is not exposed directly, and my front end and back end is directly able to communicate through a Docker network. So yes, you can also do this. I will uh, keep the GitHub link of this. All the code I will keep on my GitHub, and paste the GitHub link in my description. So if you like this video, like if you have understood everything, and so do like it and share it. And if you want to give any suggestion, you can write in the comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.